Hello everyone, welcome to Big Talk on Global Television. Well, we highlight some political major stories and developments around the country. But there are several concerns. Politically, we'll be taking a look on the program tonight, where we'll first inform you that the president has invited members of the TUC delegation at the Nigerian Labour Congress for a meeting at the presidential villa to address the issues of minimum wage. This is still on the heels of the fact that the 62,000 naira promised by the government to be remitted to the National Assembly wasn't in any way met with the reach of the NLC and TUC, and this has prompted the president to invite the both parties for further discussions and negotiation as to put to rest the issues of minimum wage for the Nigerian labor. But the other concern about to how long, this is taking over a month where the president first on June 12 Democracy Day broadcast promised Labour that this will be transmitted and an upward payment and review of the minimum wage will be carried out. But for over a month, we're still having to grapple with this discussion, as we are seeing the fact that maybe by tomorrow we might actually have a final reach by both NLC and TUC with the federal government. But away from that, there have also been a development in the House of Reps where an alleged non-payment of over 1.5 billion naira generated a heated argument at the floor of the House of Representatives Committee on Women Affairs and Social Development. The Minister of Women Affairs, Uju Kennedy, over the non-payment of 1.5 billion to contractors for job delivered. The committee was investigating the alleged diversions of the said sum meant for the payment of contractors after it received a petition from the contractors over non-payment for contracts they executed for the ministry. This is still coming on the heels of the proper oversight function of the House of Representatives. But let's take a listen to the drama that played out at the House of Representatives Committee yesterday during the committee sitting.
For 2023 from the Accountant General's office, was it released to the account of the Ministry of Women Affairs, yes or no?
Honorable Minister and your team, Mr. DFA, I'm at a loss because fortunately I attended the last meeting, and one of the reasons why we took you on oath was to get the truth from you, and today you have deviated. You have deviated because you did say yes, there was release of money, and you take instruction from principal, and there and then I confronted permanent secretary. He said he was not in the known, and I still making my statement that you are running the ministry with your minister. Both of you will be
I take exception to that. Please don't interrupt, honorable member. Don't interrupt. Don't interrupt, honorable member. Please let her finish.
I am not
stop interrupting, honorable member.
She should
Minister, calm down. Honorable Minister, calm down. Honorable Minister, calm down.
Repeating what I said. I confronted the permanent secretary and the DFA last week Thursday. I'm still alive talking. You did say it's what they approved to you. I said, Mr. Pamsek, what happened? You are not in the known. I said, look, I was twice commissioner in my state, and the accounting officer is the permanent secretary. Please, you people should work with the permanent secretary. Didn't I say so, Mr. DFA? I am still saying it because from the revelations, what's coming out is one-man show. One-man show you people are doing, two-man show.
Can I talk to
you? When you have to call, just calm down. Don't worry, you will talk. You will have your time. You will have your time. Honorable Minister, you will have your time. You will have your time. Yes.
No fairness here. It's a trap. It's a trap, but I'm not going to jump into it.
Thank you, Chairperson.
I will not jump into the trap.
Please, Honorable Minister,
I fear nothing. I've stolen nothing.
Honorable Minister, you will have your time to talk.
Tampered with anything. That's why I not fear anybody. I'm not
Honorable
fearing.
Minister, Honorable Minister.
Honorable Minister, we are working with records. We are working with records. We are working with records.
On the issue of the contract, even the ones given while I was there, they have not been paid. Yes, they have not been paid. So there is no partiality here except that we are underfunded. We don't have money. They have not been paid. That's why we moved the ongoing project to this year's budget.
Well, that was a member of the House of Representatives on Women Affairs tackling the Minister of Women Affairs for an alleged non-payment of 1.5 billion naira to contractors. I mean, this is coming also as a welcome development where we're seeing House of Reps get at attentions of public officers in terms of delivery and also accountability, transparency, among other issues. All of these are concerns that over times we've been actually been delivering the country. But I will go on a break, and once we return, we'll be taking on another discussions on the program where we'll be highlighting several challenges regarding the creation of the new Ministry of Livestock. But many Nigerians are still having other differences about the performance of the president and so far in office. So we'll take a reaction of some Nigerians on that issue. But the main focus tonight on the program will be the creations of the Ministry of Livestock Development, where the president has promised this is in a bid to close the issues between the herders and the farmers. Would this actually solve the clash and the issues? What happened to Ministry of Agriculture? Other questions many Nigerians are having to ask the president on the move to create another ministry. All of these will be forming a talking point shortly after this break. Do stay with us. Many thanks, everyone, for still staying with us. But away from there, many issues in the country, the concern of Nigerians on the performance of the president, where it seems the attempts and policies of government is in nowhere meeting the reality on the ground, where issues of food, costs of living, food prices in the market is still on the top burner of discussions in the country. Many Nigerians are still having to struggle for 2 square meal, and it's a concern because government holds it as a responsibility of delivering some quite dividends of democracy back to the people and also providing an enable environment for businesses to strive. All of these will get the reactions of Nigerians on the course of our program. But let's get to discuss these issues of the new Ministry of Livestock. Would this really have to address the many questions in terms of the herders and the farmers clash? My guest tonight is the Secretary of African Action Congress, Ina Okopi, who is live here on the studio to add voice to the program. Good evening and welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mike.
You know,
it's
very hard to find a politician and a comrade in one. Thanks so much for valuing time to discuss these issues.
Yeah.
Our Ransia report a few months ago, we are still brainstorming. We're looking at what for government to revisit the Ransia report in terms of cost of governance and all of those things. Right now, the president seems to turn around from the issues of the Ransia report and the content and the move and intentions of that particular report down to create a new ministry. To him, he might have personal reasons. Part of those is to see how he can actually address these issues of our herders and farmers. But in terms of priorities, and the reality on ground, do you think that is a welcome development for the country at a time like this?
Thank you, Mike. And my full names are Ina Okopiagu. You like to remove the last name.
Maybe I have to get some consultation for that.
So maybe you tell them to correct it.
Yes, it will be done.
On the screen, it's showing just Ina Okopi.
It will be done.
Ina Okopiagu. So I want to sincerely thank you for this opportunity to bear my mind as a stakeholder. The news didn't come to us as a shock. If you follow the report from when Buhari was president, from when Jonathan was president, and then Audu Ogbe was the Minister of Agric at the time, they tried to, there was a law that was muted to prohibit open grazing. That failed. And then under Buhari, there were 2 attempts. There was a livestock program that came later after the Ruga plan, and it was stiffly rejected. And this was coming at the heel of people being killed mindlessly in the country. I'm talking about farmers now, and then herders dying in the process also because of clashes between these 2 groups. Now, all that didn't work because a lot of people viewed this as an undercurrent plan to hijack or grab land. And once the people have lost their land, then who are they? So I'm not also shocked because when President Tinubu came on board, he met this problem of grab. But it was also not news to us that Ganduje, the current chairman of the APC, had a meeting of some elders. I didn't know when that committee was set up, but part of their communique when that meeting ended was they muted the idea of a ministry of livestock. I immediately knew that it would fly because of the kind of system that we have. Now the question is that what is supposed to happen? Why are you creating, where in other countries where they have even more cattle than we have, do you have them create ministry for every item around that value chain? No. I think that the process and the thought, it was a thoughtless process. I don't think they gave a lot of thinking to what they have now done. And before you raise this argument, people will now say, look, the Ministry of Livestock Affairs have other things under it, fishery and all that. But I put it to you, if you listen to the president yesterday in his speech, it was basically about herders and farmers.
Absolutely.
And it becomes complicated when this whole thing comes on stream and you now need to appoint ministers, PAMSECs, directors in the face of this dwindling financing of projects and activities of government. That's going to be difficult. The bureaucracy around it. I would have thought that the way the Ministry of Agric is currently constituted before the creation of the whole this new ministry would just have solved the problem for us. Now, how do I mean? If you say, let's take, for example, the Anchor Borrowers program under President Buhari. You know how woefully that failed? People who are not even farmers were accessing funds from that scheme because government thinks that the best way to solve a problem is to throw money at the problem, create a new agency, throw money at them. If you go to some of these agencies and ministries that have been created and you see the rot under those schemes, you will marvel at how government does not think deeply before they adopt a new approach. Throwing money at the problem will not end the farmers-herders clash. Until we get to a point where people, now the government recognizes that cattle herding is a business. And if you are into the business, like some farmers are, I am a farmer. My friends who know me as a farmer. My first degree was in agricultural engineering. I've done a bit of farming around Abuja until this kidnapping thing began to become too serious, and we had to pull back. There are several things in that value chain. Setting up a Ministry of Livestock Affairs will not solve the problem. Until when I wanted to go into farming in Abuja, I had to go and acquire a land. I didn't wait for the Ministry of Agric to allot lands to me or pump money to me. Even if I was to look for money through the Anchor Borrower program, I'll have to set up a company, apply the right way, meet the conditions, and get the money. I think we should get to a point where we recognize that even cattle herding is a business. And the right thing for government to do is not create a ministry where they think they can throw money at people and help them to procure land. President Tinubu made those assertions yesterday that even if it means buying land, they will do that. Why is the government getting into that? Encourage the people who are in this value chain to do their thing. Create the condition for them. But before you say, Jack, I heard one of the people, the leaders of the cattle rearer stuff, talking on TV today, that this whole thing would stop cattle, all this fight between. But Mike, this is a serious matter. You have to understand that people have died. There are people who are currently still living in IDP camps in this country, 10 years and more.
Because of that issue.
And nothing seems to be happening concerning them. If you say, God, stop this, how is this practice done every other place? People do ranching. And if you want to buy a ranch, you buy or you lease and then put your cattle there, and then every other things, activities surrounding, providing feeding for these cattle, you provide them by way of financing them. If you need to get a loan, approach a bank and get a loan. That's what government can do. Now, if you say this is what should be done, hold on a second, let me just give you this point. If you say this is what should be done, they will begin to say that this is their way of life. Mike, let's backtrack a little to say 400 years ago. If me and you were living 400 years ago today, imagine that we're 400 years ago. You'll probably be in suit. I won't be in this dress. I'll probably be tying wrappers or maybe leave around my side just to cover me a little. And if a meeting was called, I will show up at the meeting dressed like that. Now, because that was a way of life in that time, and they now call a meeting today in 2024, should I still show up in that thing because that's the way our people used to dress? No, things evolve. So with these changing times, you also have to change with it. It should be treated as a business. This move, most people have motored, and I've heard people say it. It is an unfolding drama towards 2027. I belong to a political party that thinks that we should ranch our fields, and people who partake or participate in this space should ranch their fields and put their cattle there, the way it is done every other place. We admire cowboys. The reason they call them cowboys is because their trade is in cattle, animal husbandry.
But there are some breeds that have to do all of this movement.
No, Mike. Let me tell you something. There is a young man in Adamawa today. I've been following that guy. I had a chat with him recently. He's doing a fantastic job because he understands this whole thing. His father used to run a farm, and then he's now taking over the farm. Now, what he has done is he looked at the value chain. They are into the business of dairy making, dairy product, things like milk. You know what they did? They went into the communities where all these herders live and said, look, stop moving your cow from place to place. Let us find the means to make things easy for you. From the milk we get from your cattle, you are able to make a lot of money. Instead of pushing your cattle to walk from one side of the country, Adamawa, to Lagos, it toughens the meat, they can't grow well, and they can't produce enough milk. But what they have done is that they've created a system around there where they make financing available to them to plant crops that the cattle will eat, and they come every week to milk their cattle. One thing has happened that he has attested to. The cattle are now producing more milk, and they get paid at the end of the week. And by the time you do the calculation of how much you make from selling milk that is now an improved system, things have gone. They are making more money. And he also understood that you need to provide infrastructure. He's provided cold room, because when you milk cow, I have been where they do it before. If it stays beyond 2 hours, it becomes rancid. It loses the taste. But you have to take it immediately and put it in a cooling system. He has provided that and provided power to cool it by solar system to cool this thing. At the end of the month, they pick them up, they produce them into cheese and milk, yogurt, and people are now able to get this. And the farmers who are the headers now, don't look at them as headers. They are also farmers. It's also an aspect of agriculture. So they now no need to move from Lagos or from Adamawa to Lagos by road. They can now rear their cattle in a specific environment without encroaching on other people who are also doing their own livelihood.
All right. I mean, thanks for that background. Let's go to the motive behind this move. There are some persons that may argue that it's about political, satisfaction to, or a give back of political promise back to some quarters of persons for the support. Remember, the president came from support of some quarters. Through you, do you feel it's about justifying some of the support coming from the north and the Fulanis, who are majorly those who are into this practice, or it's about Tinubu's also finding a way of appeasing the north, because there has so been agitation that his government have been trying to make appointment in one side and all of this. Take a holistic look at this urgent move, because we've had president who have also gotten to make approval of some ministries or creation of agencies due to one motivation or the other. So should President Tinubu's horn be different?
Well, not when, I don't think, because politics is really about interest. But even in carrying out, satisfying the interests of certain blocks of people, you also need to look at the people who could be affected by that move. I said it when we began here, that I've also heard it said that he had made promises that he was going to do something about it. And when you listen to the secretary of the Miyetti Allah group, in his comment yesterday, he was thankful that Tinubu has done something to recognize. And people have also said, if you look at the party I represent, have a completely different view to what President Tinubu is doing. We would have done it differently. Our people are suffering, but that's a different discussion for another day. People have said, and I've heard it said, I even read it in one of the newspapers just this afternoon, how that if you look at some of the appointments made by the president over the last 1 year or so, they've tilted towards one particular direction. You can attest to that. So they view this creation as an attempt to pander to the people in the north. And they also alluded that it is an unfolding drama towards 2023. But like I said, 2027. Interest is okay. But when you also do interest, do it with a human face. I said it here. There are people in Benue today and other places and Plateau who are still living in IDP camps because of the activities of these header-farmer clashes that happened over the last couple of years. Nothing. We are yet to see any deliberate move on the part of government to resettle these people. If you are creating a ministry to cater to farmers, headers, which is what it actually is, because if you see the comments surrounding it, it's all around cattle. Nobody has said anything about piggery. We also would like to see...
And the farms that have been destroyed in the course of these kind
Now, if we're going to go ahead and agree for this to stand, we also would like to see a situation, because it is not easy to begin. Once it is begun like this, you want to cancel it, it becomes a difficult thing. We hope that there will be balance in all this. There are other aspects of this whole value chain. Piggery. Piggery is seen as a taboo to certain parts of our religion in this country. I hope that is also accommodated in this new program. There is a deliberate plan to develop that value chain. It is not just cattle. We're going to wait and see how that happens. It is a delicacy to certain people. It is a taboo to other sectors, other religion. That ministry should not just be about cattle, now that it has started, so that there is fairness in the execution. If people are doing anything that surrounds animal husbandry and the feeding of same, that should be captured. And there should be a balanced approach to execution. But how do you do that in the face of the strangling economic situation, where government is also finding it difficult to finance its own program? Are you then going to say, even in the face of these financing concerns, where do you get money to run it? We'll wait and see how this happens. But if you ask me, I do not think that it is the best approach. It should not have happened, because if you want to, this same government had said that they support the Orasanye's report and have even begun the implementation of it piecemeal. And I'm sure that they would have gotten to agriculture and done some things. Now you're creating another ministry. It will go down on record, Mike. President Tinubu, so far in the history of our country, is the one maintaining the biggest cabinet with 45 ministers. That's something else.
Does it show that the failure? I mean, does it show failure of the Ministry of Agriculture? Because some person are arguing that you could have aware of introduced or married some of these interests, creating maybe the special department under the Ministry of Agriculture to handle this. Does it show a clear difference?
Mike, it does exist. If you go to the Ministry of Agriculture, there will be a department for animal husbandry. Yes, maybe a lot of policies have not been geared towards animal husbandry per se, because if you look at all the institutes you have things concerning cropping. Maybe what they ought to have done is looked at the Ministry of Agriculture and say, okay, let us create a directorate that handles animal, create research institutes to handle these things. We don't have a lot of it. I don't think we have more than one or two, because under that place, you have the veterinary services and other services. Those should be given, ought to have been honed up, just created a special program for them within the same ministry without having to create another ministry.
So, I mean, are you bothered that there will be overlapping some functions? Because what it looks clearly is about, trying to interfere in other person's duty.
No. I think what, I'm sure they've done a lot of their thinking around how they want to do it. They're going to surely pull out things out of Agric and add to that to make it a full-fledged ministry that it is. But our concern is, why do you need to create another ministry? Maybe we should also create a ministry for commodities.
Because we have other issues in other sectors and areas.
The agriculture, let me tell you something about how the Chinese people succeeded. We have always maintained that agric should be removed from the exclusive list. There is no way we can succeed with agric being tied to the federal government and you're trying to administer agric at the local government. Let states do their thing. Let states handle it. The Chinese people proved this after I can't remember what his name is now. After Mao left, after Mao died, the guy who took over came and said, no, remove agric from the hands of the central government. Let the local government do their thing. Go and see. If you meet a typical Chinese, they describe their country as an agricultural country, a farming country. And that's why it has succeeded. They began to get farming right before all these other innovations began to spring up from that simple act of removing agric from the center and saying, state, handle it, let local government, because this farming is done at the local government level. Why is the federal government administering agric when it should go to the state? Let the state also do their own, while the local government do their own. Let people manage their agricultural processes. Federal government can just position itself in a place where it creates market, creates policies, and not get into, because what's going to really happen, let's see how it goes. You will find them throwing money at a problem that will never get solved. And one part is going to feel like you left us in the cold and you're solving one other problem. That is not the way to go about it.
Because why many Nigerians are arguing over this is that probably it's not about creating another ministry. It's about the failure of some of the ministries we've had not delivering on their goals and the objectives and all of that. And now creating more, we are concerned about how you're going to fund this ministry and the faces of this economic reality. And that's the many pains of Nigerians that are concerned.
Their pains are valid. The situation right now is you don't even have
Does it
money.
show the insensitivity of the president in a time like this?
Well, I think he's trying to protect his own interest, to secure
at the detriment
position.
of the people.
The people are going to suffer for
It's the food inflation is high. The markets, I went to the market yesterday, and the reactions of the citizens tried to talk to us, and the feedback of market survey we did from this studio, it was quite alarming. When I give you the video, you will see the many reactions of the parents. So it seems, it has gotten to the point where Nigerians are struggling to eat. Which is, you're probably older than me. Give me an understanding. Have we been in that situation in the country before now?
Never, never. And I have said this.
So Buhari is better.
He was a terrible leader.
Compared to high cost of living now.
Both of them are
President
Tinubu. I've not personally. Life has gotten worse, but it was also worse under Buhari.
He was subsidizing fuel. And now this one removed fuel subsidy, which is causing a lot of issues.
No. See, I was on your program when I mentioned it. I don't know if you still remember. Our own approach as the African Action Congress is that there's actually nothing wrong in subsidizing your people. The IMF people and the World Bank who suggested to you to remove subsidy, go to their countries, Mike. They're also subsidizing their people, right? We have maintained that the problem with subsidy was the execution of it. The execution of it was corrupt. I mean, at some point in this country, the person who was in charge at the time, the NNPC, came out to our public space and told Nigerians that we consume like 100 million liters of petroleum product per day. How, Mike? What? So we have maintained that if you were just patient enough to audit the process, go into it from maybe 2010 to 2022 or 2023, audit the process. If this person claimed he brought petrol from somewhere, you will investigate that place to be sure that it came from that place. Investigate if he actually came here and why is subsidy paid. You'll be able to pick out the bad eggs and they refund the money. And you'll be able to bring down that figure of 66 million, 100 million to a bearable number and still subsidize your people. Nothing wrong with subsidizing those products. There was no need to remove it. All the problem with it was corruption. Corruption. And how do you also explain that you have 4 refineries in this country? Over that period, these refineries couldn't work, and you are having to bring fuel from abroad. You export the crude and bring in fuel. And that was once you do that, the price increases, and you are having to subsidize. Nothing wrong with subsidy. So that subsidy removal was poorly executed. It should not have been touched. All he needed to do was to look at the people delivering it and then investigate or audit it.
All right. We'll be back to you to round up the program and the session, but we'll actually have to take some divert area where many Nigerians have raised concern on the president so far. I mean, yesterday when we went for the market survey, they reacted so badly, and some said, if you can't do the job, please resign and leave the job. Let's take a listen to what Nigerians reacted on that news, and then when we're back, we'll try to wrap it up on the implications of this creation of new Ministry of Livestock. Take a listen.
We fought for Tinubu the day, election day. All of us dance there. Say our good father, he don't win election. Say now he go help us. But as he win, he finish. Now he come wicked us past. People where they chop food before, you know see food we chop we get hungry. Something cost for market. I know no detail what go to sir. He say now fuel. Now only fuel be Nigeria be problem. Nigeria problem. Fuel no be Nigeria problem. Make less fuel down. If you want making Nigeria good, make less fuel down. Making fuel no cost again.
The other government don't come. It's not like this. Her own is the worst. Maybe we don't want Tinubu don't change everything upside down for Nigeria. We are begging Tinubu to help us. If you know say it's not capable to say, let Tinubu give chance, let another person enter.
Me personal, I want him to calm down. If how things is costly, because even Kashim, his younger brother used to come and sit down here as I'm here. Maybe he can see today. You know who am I? Kashim younger brother, he sit here with me. I know him one-on-one in Maiduguri. We the people do campaign for them, and later they will be fooling us. And next time you do come and find us to do campaign for them. Never forever. That is none. We will not achieve. You go to Maiduguri, one mudu of corn, they buy 2,500 naira. How come?
That's the concern of Nigerians on the president's attention to the citizens' needs. It looks that the priorities of the president is somehow not aligning with the agitations and the demands of the people in terms of the current economic reality facing them. Honorable, I want you to comment on the effort of the president, policies of the president, rounding up. It looks as if he's not trying to centralize some of these policies to the reality of the now. What do you perceive from your end? Because when you look at some of these policies from when he came on board, we've checked with the one that looks as if it has to respond to what, to the agitation of Nigerians, expectation of Nigerians. It looks, because when you look at CNG buses that they are promised, all of the promise of the subsidy removal, we're yet to actually see none. And the Nigerians are pains. They're facing a lot of pains and they're going through a lot. We've seen day before yesterday, someone tried to take his life. At the cause of committing suicide, which is against the law. We are not agitating for that. But And the reality is actually facing a lot of Nigerians. To you, look at President's priorities, right? Does it look as if it's a citizen's needs priority now?
Which is that exactly?
This move and other move that he has been carried out.
I was waiting for you to also mention that there's a plan he has given a 150-day window
exactly
to remove duties on all importation of food
and some crops.
Mike, even that will not work. All those cut and nail, palliative actions will not solve our problems. One would have now thought that, first of all, what got us into this mess is the removal of subsidy, that's one, and the floating of the naira. These two policies implemented without deep thinking, it also has gotten us to brought us into this mess. Just like you said, Nigerians are suffering, right? And if you're saying you're bringing CNG buses, how many CNG buses will take care of Nigeria? How many? There's a finite number to it. And we're also hoping that this is not trying to satisfy some interest by just bringing CNG, when it is also possible. Are you listening, Mike? It is possible you are talking of CNG. If there's a break in the value chain of gas, the CNG will pack. Just look at this critically. You have CNG that is dependent on something coming out of a place where you still have people trying to make peace in the Niger Delta. If there's any stoppage in that flow, the CNG buses would also not work. But then there are also electric buses. The question now will be, how do you charge them? These things come with self-charging stations that are purely solar. Nigeria is properly situated to be able to generate its power from solar. And then you can have electric buses. These buses are everywhere abroad. The places where you go to carry these CNG buses, there are also electric buses. Why not do a twin policy where you have something that, in case people decide to go on strike today, imagine that petroleum marketers and all that decide to go on strike, the CNG buses you're talking about will pack. Can you not bring in something that is independent of all these trappings?
And these structures.
Good. So I agree with you, Nigerians are suffering. And
what is the way forward? How can we begin to make food cheap? Because when you look at some of the policies of the ban lifting on the borders and all of those things, it looks like the president is also understanding the reality of the ground. But it seems it doesn't. It may not work immediately.
I imagine that
150 days, about 5 months. What's the sustainability of it? And how do they import food in?
I imagine that he is. The thing with this whole challenge is we need to get security in check. Farming does not happen inside Maitama. Farming happens in my village. Farming happens in tea villages and plateau villages where you get things that come to the center. As long as those people are unable to go to the farm, if you like, throw all Nigeria's budget at people, they will collect it and put it in their account. And then there will be no food to eat.
So there's no transparency and accountability.
We would have expected that this thing, you don't need, it's not a hard and fast rule. If you don't solve security problem at the local government area where the farming takes place, everything you are throwing at it will not work. How do you solve security? Let there be governance at the local government level. How do you solve that? The issue of governance, which is basic, which is non-existent even as we speak, is because when you find a state where the parties say PDP or APC as
the case takes it all in local
they
election.
Take everything. Nothing happens there. The election that happens is a sham. People, it has to be participatory. People have to be able to fire their government. Once they are able to do that, you can begin. And I hope that we're expecting the judgment from the Supreme Court on Thursday, which is tomorrow, concerning local government autonomy. Even that will not solve the problem. They need to go to the point where you remove conduct of election into local government offices from state independent electoral commission. Let it be handled by a fairer arbiter.
In INEC. Independent.
Or
national.
Find a way to remove state independent electoral commission from the hands of governors. If you like, declare autonomy. they will still find a way to rig their people into office and control them through the back channel.
But are the ones that are always shouting on INEC commissioners, I mean the state governor, sometimes when it doesn't favor them.
But at least you can, even though INEC, I have a problem with them, but we also do some work with them. I have a problem with them. But if you have INEC conducting it, at least the governors will not be able to impose. People will be able to vote and vote who represents them and fire the person during the next election. And then when you have that, the leader is also careful in how he behaves. And then you can begin to see developmental activities around local government. You can now tackle issue of security because there's going to be activity at that level. But right now, nothing like that happens. And you expect peace to just fall from somewhere because you bought hillocks and gave to soldiers and police. That will not change.
You see, Niger State is making an attempt in agriculture. Should other states not also find a way?
Go
Because
to
they're trying
Niger.
to say how to get
See,
food.
leave this television thing. Go to Niger State. I don't know what's
There's
going
still
on there.
hunger in Niger. I mean, he's just starting the planting. Maybe we should give him benefit of that for some
We'll give
months.
him a benefit of the doubt, but like I said, get governance right at the local government level so that you can have proper governance happening there. So that local government officials are not at the behest or under the control of state to determine who gets there and who doesn't get there.
That means
Once
we are
you
afraid to even grant state policing because it may also look at another way of also.
State police, sir. State police. Forget all this talk they're talking. Even though it's a brilliant idea, state police will not solve the problem until you get governance right at the local government level.
A lot of role, and I mean, citizens also have their part to play, and government as well always have their part to play. But in generalities of some of these implications and the move to create another ministry has drawn many Nigerians to react on these events as to what
Mike, sorry to cut you. I listened to proceedings from the Senate, I think yesterday. They are shouting and say they had approved for this thing to go out since it has not gone out.
because if
They
you ask
also
government,
forget,
government will give
that's
you
the
breakdown
bureaucracy.
and record of what they have done to cushion this effect.
But it does not get
The
to
reality,
the people.
the reality is that tomato is still high in the
It's
market.
still high.
Rice, Gary 1.5, a family of 7. How does a family of 7 begin to survive in the reality?
And you know the interesting thing? Farming is timed. Once it passes a certain time, you cannot use certain of these inputs.
Nothing is on ground then.
Good. So all these things they're talking, forget all, government may be pushing out good policies, but when it comes to implementation, they also need to follow through at that level.
To the grassroots.
To the grassroots. Ensure that the inputs get to the farmers. I mean, what month is this, Mike? This is July. Farming probably started around April, May, June. That's when it picks up. If you have not planted your maize today, when are you going to plant it?
So you are afraid that hunger may be more next year.
Just watch for what is coming.
Maybe there will be a miracle coming.
I
your way.
expect that maybe the president ought to have sat down and said, look, I will go to this thing, do it myself. Because all these bureaucrats, they mess things up for you if you are not sitting on your own, you are not standing on your feet. You know, ensure that these things are done. I heard the National Assembly complaining that farmers are complaining that they have not received anything that government had promised them. If you give me fertilizer for corn that are supposed
We
to
have
have
professional farmers and local farmers. It seems we're having people who are the professional
there
farmers
are
in
portfolio
Abuja.
farmers everywhere now. How do you think the Anchor Borrower program failed with the bad debt of running into billions? I remember then we were supposed to manage a certain farm, very massive farm that would have created heavy employment. We applied for this same loan. Guess what? They bounced us. We didn't get it until they scrapped it. Is that what you want to do? No. So, but if you don't get it right, especially with implementation, it is not going to work, my brother. That's the truth.
A lot of concern there. I will say many thanks to Ina Kopi Agu, the Secretary of the African Action Congress for your time, and I've thought of this a very fantastic conversation tonight on that issue. But we're looking forward to see what it may looks like. For the president, he may have good intention. The implementation, as he rightly pointed out, may be an issue again to fix it. But in reality, let's get the Nigerians working. Let's get a lot of things working, because the reality on ground is that nothing is being felt by this government and administration We're looking forward by Mr. President to addressing all of these challenges and getting the way forward for Nigerians for the next years to remaining in his office as the president of the country. So much thank you to the Secretary of African Action Congress. My regards to the national chairman, which we will also look forward to having him on the show.
Yeah, I'm going to pass your message.
Thank
you very much.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for all
this. And that's where we'll round it up. And of course, looking forward to see you again tomorrow, where we'll be taking a look at another discussion and a focus on the national politics. Do stay with us on Global TV and keep watching. I am Edika Michael. God bless Nigeria.